Hello, this is Strategy Miscellany. This is episode 8 of our Terra Invicta series as the Servants. It is April of 2029, and what I just did is, well, two things. Number one, I set these income charts here to monthly instead of daily. So now it shows me I get 1.4k research monthly, 11.5 boost monthly, and so on. Right now I'm losing 300 money monthly, and that's something we're going to need to work on. It also gives me my space materials monthly, which is good. Here I can see I'm a little short on volatiles. Some of my new mines opening up should help with that. I kind of went through, the second thing I did is I kind of went through and did an audit of my space stations. I went through and looked at them all, what bonuses they were providing, and whether this was a good idea, and did some sort of rearranging and rebuilding on a lot of them, which is why so many of them show that they're in construction right now. And then the third thing I did is I went down to my nations on Earth, and I have sort of a temporary concentration in certain areas going on. So my wealthier countries, so Korea, Malaysia, and Singapore, are all pouring large sums of theirs directly into funding. Each time they complete funding, it increases my income by, it looks like 6 per year in Singapore, 7 per year in Malaysia, and 8 per year in South Korea. That's, a tiny amount, less than 1 per month. But if I keep this up for, 6 months to a year, it'll build up to a significant amount of additional money. And the nice thing is it doesn't harm the nation, unlike spoils, and it keeps going constantly. So I can take the priority out of this, put it on other things, and the funding will keep coming in like clockwork every month. Now, in my poorer nations, basically the rest of my block here, so Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, the Himalayan states, and India, I'm doing a strong focus on economic development. A little bit in knowledge development, probably even less than that actually, but really trying to race for economic development. This should assist in stability of these countries because they're more stable if you can get the GDP per capita above 10,000 per person, which some of these are still quite a bit below, but having it skyrocket upwards, having me focus all my resources on this, or most of them, should have it skyrocket upwards pretty quickly. India, I am finishing the Navy and another nuclear missile buildup before I put everything into that. So India will be a little bit slower to take off, but it's actually fairly close to 10,000 per capita already. Oman is still my source of spoils, although in the long run I want to transition away from that and build it up like my other countries in the area. And the US, I thought about keeping it on spoils, but the problem is, sure, I'm weakening the US, but every time I get 1 unit of spoils income, which in the US is $63, it would also give the resistance 5 times that because they control the other 5 control points. So for now, I didn't want to do that. I'm just basically putting money into a thing the resistant isn't, and trying to build up some egalitarian programs in the US. Basically just because the initiative doesn't want, or the resistance doesn't want to do it. And so I want to do something they don't want to do, just to spite them a little bit. Lower Guinea, of course, is getting the same economic buildup as everywhere else, except for with more of a focus on welfare because inequality there is so high. And we also do need to focus on unity because the cohesion of the country is so low. So that's my current plan. We're going to sort of take a break from expansion into space once these are done. Take maybe a breather for a year or so as we put money into funding and try to do sort of a crash economic development program in South Asia. And our counselors will continue, increasing stability, running popularity campaigns in high population countries. I should run some in Nigeria. That would be a good idea. Or Ethiopia. I have some running in the US right now to go with my one control point. But yeah, building up our global popularity, advising in my big countries, especially India and Korea, to make their investments go faster, stabilizing places that need stabilizing. I think someone's been raising unrest in India, and so I need to run some stability campaigns there to get my science points and everything back up. So that's the plan for now. And once I get a decent haul drive, I'll build a scout ship and send it out to scout some asteroids. Once I get something that's got a large amount of delta V but goes real slow. Other than that, I will report back to you in July, and we'll see how this goes. So it is August, a little bit late for our quarterly report, 2 weeks late from when we normally give it. And biggest news is probably that we have a spaceship now. So here we have Sierra 1, our first kind of missile boat. It is docked at Petra Station here. And we can move it around. So let's say that we want to send it somewhere. So I could send it, for example, to low Earth orbit. And it can get there in a day. Now we can also save some delta V by getting there a bit slower. So like this way, it'll take 2.8 days, but it'll only cost 6.2 of our 10.2 kilometers per second of delta V. Now let me see if I can send it elsewhere at all. Let's see if I wanted to take it to the moon. Yes, it could make it to the moon. Let me just make sure my station up there. Oh, I don't actually have a station in high lunar orbit. Well, it's a good thing I didn't send you there then. And yeah, it can't actually make it to Mars. Not into the current transfer window anyway. Nor can it make it to Venus. Oh, it looks like it can actually just barely make it to Venus here, to Olympic Station in high Venus orbit. At which point, it could refuel at that station. But what I'm going to do is send it to Redeemer Station, and I'll hit transfer. There it is. So once I confirm assignments on everyone, we can probably watch it fly.
Ready.
So they haven't been doing anything super exciting. I've mostly just been having them advise or reduce unrest
Restoring order.
to assist with my sort of stabilization program here.
Offering counsel.
Reporting in. Will restore peace to this nation. Ready for orders. Lending my expertise.
All right, so let me go down to low speed here, and we can watch Sierra 1 do its thing. Okay, I think I have to speed up time a little bit to get to where it will actually start flying. And you can see there its transfer path sort of spiraling inwards, it looks like, is, well, what is its transfer path? Is it moving yet? I can't tell. There it is, Sierra 1. Transferring to Redeemer Station, accelerating at just 23 millig's, so it's going to take a while. And I think it's a frame of reference issue is why it looks kind of weird like this. There we go. Now we can speed up time a little bit. You can see it slowly burning towards Earth here.
Lending my expertise.
Offering support.
I just want to get a good picture of it here. I can hear it. I can sure hear it. But I don't see it. But the other thing we can do now is we can look at designing a sort of a survey ship for the belt. So let's look at that. Okay, we're going to pick the smallest size. It's going to be an Explorer. And for the engine, for the drive, we want to use the Hall drive here. That's got the best specific impulse, even though it's got very little ability to thrust forwards. And what does the Hall drive run on? Let's see. Trying to see here. Okay, it runs on base metals, so that's nice. We have a lot of those. Okay, so this thing can't even accelerate at 1,000th of a g, but it can really go a long way. And that's before we've even added anything to it. So let's try and add some things and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to use the titanium because they're the lightest. And then utility modules, we just want the science lab. Armor, we're not going to put any on. Okay, so this thing can barely move. It's basically an ion drive ship. It can only move at 0.38 thousandths of a gravity. So like 380 millionths of a gravity. But it got 31.6 kilometers per second of delta V. So let's save the design. And let's see if we build one of these here. Now, basically, we have to build this at Petra Station, because if we build it at Olympic Station or Amalfi Station, it will actually have a lot of trouble getting out. Although, actually, I think Amalfi Station will be okay, and that's closer to the belt. So I'm going to build it there. All right. Other than that, my efforts to solve our money problem with mass funding don't really seem to be doing much so far, in part because we built a lot more space infrastructure during that time, and we're now costing more money there. However, we're actually starting to get decent amounts of space resource production. Like if I sell 100 noble metals, then that makes me 256 cash, which basically pays for a month income, or a month's deficit, close to it. Now, admittedly, that's 4 months worth of noble metals production. So we're not yet balancing the books or anywhere near it. But we're heading towards there. I have some other ideas. I did kind of sell off some stuff to the Protectorate to make a little money. So we can keep this going for now until we can figure out a better way to balance the budget. We might just, if we're still in the US, if these control points that I abandoned to save on our control cap come back and the resistance doesn't take us out, I'll probably just run full spoils now that I have 2 points there. And that should basically balance our budget, or if not more so. If not more than balance our budget. So I will get back to you in October, and we'll see how things are going. So it's October. Unfortunately, with having to put them on abandon, we've lost our control of points in the US. We still have the rest of our points, except for there was a coup in the Himalayan states. We're going to have to take full control of them back. Shouldn't be too difficult. Other than that, our development program continues. India now has 6 control points. Part of why our control point cap is problematic again. And its GDP per capita is over 10,000. Sri Lanka, not sure why this shows a reduction. Might be because unrest just went up or something. Bangladesh growing quickly. Myanmar growing fairly quickly from a fairly low baseline. Thailand growing quickly. The rest of them putting out points into funding. Let's see, Malaysia, it looks like, is increasing its funding of us by only about $5 a month, but that does add up. We make maybe $2 more per day than we used to from nations. We gave up the National Reconnaissance Office for one of our counselors because it was costing a lot of money. But unfortunately, our space program continued to expand and is now costing us more money. On the other hand, we're making large quantities of all resources. Not really enough that we can start making huge money by selling them, but enough that we have decent surpluses of pretty much everything. And so we're going to continue with the current national programs until maybe mid-2030 or so. And then at that point, I think we'll go back. We'll change our policy arrangements a little bit. Probably have these countries that are wealthy enough go back to producing mission control as a priority. Look at some of the other countries and see if we need to change their priorities. And go from there. We do have our scout ship, which is currently heading out to the asteroid belt to scout 512 Taurinus. It will take it about a year, so honestly, it's not really any better than one of the probes, unfortunately, I have to admit. It's kind of just not that different. And why I can't see the ships. Is that the ship? Maybe. Yeah, there's our ship. Why it won't let me zoom in enough to get a good picture of the darn thing, I don't know. It's driving me a little bit crazy. Now, what if I go like this? Yeah, the camera is giving me trouble. But there's our ship. Heading out to an asteroid to go take a look around. And then it should have enough delta V to come home, too. Fingers crossed. We might have to wait for positions in the belt relative to Mars to move around a bit first, but we should be able to do it. So, Our mission control, we're slightly overcapped because we lost the US. But our mission control center orbiting Mercury finally finished its construction. Fairly soon, we're going to be able to research space hotels, at which point Xanadu Station is going to level up a notch and start bringing in considerably more income. That should hopefully solve our income problems in the short to medium term. So other than that, we're just kind of continuing with what we're doing. Obviously taking back the Himalayas and continuing with our growth program in our poorer countries and our funding program in our wealthier countries. Research-wise, we have some larger projects going here, which will increase our control cap and will also give us some bonuses to research. And we are putting a lot of points into unity movements because I believe this will allow us to unify Malaysia and Singapore, hopefully build a sort of a Southeast Asian bloc, hopefully create a greater India. And so that's the plan, is to use this sort of thing to grow our nations into larger blocks, allowing us to save on control points and expand outwards into more places. I've been talking about taking Japan for a long time. Maybe this will finally come the day. Or maybe we'll try more of an expansion into Africa and try and create sort of a African state of some sort. It would take a lot of work to build it up into a powerful location, but having population under our control, I think, will be beneficial to our goals as the servants, for somewhat spoilery reasons. So, anyway, I will report back in January unless something real interesting happens. The U.S. has been launching a bunch of regime change, imperialist wars to basically pick on anybody who's not part of the resistance faction or aligned with the resistance faction in the southern hemisphere or in the western hemisphere. But, these interventions in Latin America, they're kind of like a lot of U.S. interventions in Latin America. They often just destabilize the place and they have to come back soon later. It's like Simon Bolivar said about to sow revolution is to plow the sea. Such is the life of the resistance. And we're going to keep trying to make it harder on them so that our alien saviors can come from the heavens. After one of these big 10,000 text researches, I think next we're going to try and research Hydra diplomacy so that we can actually make diplomatic contact with them and advance the storyline. All right, I'll get back to you in January. All right, time for our January quarterly report. The most important news is that we are upgrading to space hotels on Xanadu Station. With our current level of boost, we can afford 3 of them. They will be complete in under a month, and at that point, my income should go positive with no need for extra spoils. I'll probably still continue keeping my worm in the apple point in the US because the aliens were generous enough to use their mind control powers to grant me another point in the US. And the initiative also has one there too. So dividing the resistance's control and attention is always a good thing. The development program, I plan to continue the development part of it until probably October or so of 2030 at least. The funding part of it, I probably will switch out of probably as soon as I get my space hotels, really. I mean, it's made some effort. It's probably produced an increase in my monthly income by something like $100 a month, 120. I know they're not dollars, they're money units, but that's something. It's not, super efficient, but it's something and it's there forever. And so that has been a success, I would say, a qualified success. And we'll go back towards putting more of these points in developing these countries, and also towards putting more of these points into mission control so that we can continue to expand our space systems, and into boost so that we can build a few more space hotels. Now, we're also researching nano factories, which will also help us make money. Basically, the nano factory provides 60 units of money per turn in return for sucking up a lot of resources. But we should be able to afford 2 or 3 of them with the current baseline. And it also lets you found in the region additional orbitals and settlements, so you can build straight to level 2 without having to boost from Earth. And if it's not doing any construction, then it builds products for money income instead. These 2 projects are both going to take a while. We'll probably put a little bit more into them soon. Once the nano factory is completed anyway. I have kind of taken over one research slot by funding it a bit more, so that I have control of a little bit of the global research. Right now we're researching biotech. And I did lose my place in Lower Guinea. Eventually I would like that back, and I want that 1.4 boost per month back. I'm going to take Lower Guinea back. That's one of the things we're going to do this time.
Where do you need me?
It's the principle of the thing, too. Can't have the resistance coming in and taking over my points like that. It's just rude.
Applying pressure on their people.
So we're going to knock them back. We're going to continue upgrading our counselors. You can see some of them are at admin 25 now, which is great. A lot of them could still use more command, administration, persuasion points. And more organizations as we grow available to get them. Eventually, we're going to have to take out some of these weaker 1-star orgs and replace them with stronger 2 or 3-star orgs. But so far, I don't really need to do that yet. In the long run, though, that is the plan. Anyway, I will get back to you in April, and we'll see how things are going 1 year on this episode. Okay, so this is a big event. The aliens have just landed a warship, like a large UFO, on Earth, and it's beginning to disgorge out armies in Nicaragua. So at this point, the aliens are moving from sort of their gradual development in space to something like open warfare. We'll see exactly what happens. I haven't played this far before, so I don't really know. I've seen a couple other people's playthroughs a little bit, so I have some ideas. But I do think it means that we should probably change around our priorities a little bit here so that we can finish one of these projects quickly, so that we can start learning, achieving diplomacy with the aliens. And now that they're actually landing on Earth in glorious ascension, I think we'd better take a look at talking to them more effectively. And so right now we'll finish civilian photonic computers by December, at which point we can switch over to alien diplomacy with that one. Having to put the United Malay Nation on the back burner, and same with transnational coordination. It is really too bad. United Malay Nation is going to be great. We're going to need to take Indonesia, which is why I've been trying to kind of free up some control points. I abandoned Oman now that I don't need them for spoils anymore, because our space hotels make the money. and I abandoned my point in the US. I even got a point in Brazil and had to abandon it because we're going to need to have enough points ready to take Indonesia, because we should be able to unify Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia into one super state. And that'll be, I mean, it's not as big as India, but it's a major block. Eventually, there should be a Southeast Asian block we can absorb Thailand's neighbors into, and some kind of block we can absorb India's neighbors into. And that's sort of our long run super state development scheme. I'll get back to you once the aliens do something else or once it's April. All right, so here we go. The aliens have now landed an army of alien soldiers and their machines in Managua. And actually, they've landed 3 armies. The invasion of Earth, the liberation of Earth, of course, has begun. Now, these armies start out weak for a month. If anybody can get to them right away, they're less strong. After that, they get real strong. You can see they have seven military tech. So they're a big deal. I'm not quite sure what the resistance is going to do about this. I mean, they have a lot of armies from the US, and the US has pretty good military tech, 4.7. On the other hand, a lot of the US's armies are off trying to plow the sea, as it were, fighting these endless kind of regime change wars all over the world. So they're going to have to pull back from those and deal with the real threat now of an alien invasion in Central America. Meanwhile, I need to get on with talking to those aliens pretty quick. I'll see what I can do. And it is April 16th, and the Alien Administration has been founded. The aliens have a regime on Earth. They have human proxies and are presenting themselves to the world as the unifying force that is invulnerable to crackdowns, purges, and coups. The only ways to kick them out is either a revolution, getting the unrest up to 10 in the whole country, or invading them and defeating them militarily. Behold, the Alien Administration is born. A new world dawns. Also note, the aliens can build space defenses, meaning that if they're given long enough to build up, they will not be as nukeable as anybody else. It is April and time for our general report. I'm doing some developments on the moon here. I should do something similar with my Mars mine, or one of my moon mines, or asteroid mines, I mean, and get the place to be more productive. Let me take a look here. Yeah, why not our Martian sector here? So I'm going to upgrade to a settlement core. And once that's done, we're going to upgrade to a full mining complex. I'm also going to put a marine platoon on the surface here to defend us. Oh, I don't have enough power to do that, actually. So I'll have to wait until this finishes, and then I can upgrade those fission piles, or at least one of them, to tier 2. I'm going to do something similar here. This is going to cause trouble for our mission control, but we are now building significant mission control in our Earth nations now that we've changed our national priorities for quite a few of them. Korea is prioritizing building a navy so that I can actually move one of those armies around. Let me look at that here. Yeah, they're about 40% of the way through with that project. Singapore is building me more boost. They're boost focusing. But the rest of them, Malaysia, I guess it's just Malaysia. You know, I'm going to have Thailand start building some mission control too. They're at 15,000 GDP per capita. They're not wealthy, but they're better off than several of these countries. And I can have them start spending some on mission control. Other than that, the sort of rapid development project continues apace. A lot of these countries are still quite poor, but they're growing wealthy fairly quickly. It's also important to align these countries together. I had sort of lost track of some of that and need to make sure that everybody's on the same page, basically. I want to have everybody work on block in case we need to go to war in defense of the star gods. So everybody needs to be together on block so that we can all depend on the nuclear umbrella from India. Because oddly enough, when I unified the Koreas, it got rid of North Korea's nuclear program. I guess it was some kind of diplomatic gesture of goodwill by the unifying South Korean government or something. Anyway, now that there's an alien administration, the nice thing is I can actually go support them. So I can send this guy to go stabilize the alien nation. So 1 June, she's going to go try and stabilize the alien nation. Young Biao is going to advise the alien nation to increase their investment points. Looks like I can also invest directly into the alien nation. Once I have a little bit of money, I probably will do that. And the rest of my people can... actually, one of them should go do a public campaign in the alien nation to make the whole idea of being ruled by aliens from above more popular among the people. You know, PR is a good thing, and I don't know if the Hydra fully understand the whole importance of PR yet. They're new to this planet, and they need someone to show them around a little bit, teach them how things work down here. And that's what we, the servants, are here for. So, Sierra 2, just to give an update, is flying out to the belt. It's kind of just out in the middle of nowhere right now, as you can see. And yeah, honestly, I could have gotten there probably faster with a probe. This is almost more of a proof of concept than anything else. I'm hoping once it gets to one asteroid, I can kind of hop to another asteroid right next to it for very little delta V, and then eventually hop home back to Mars and refuel. That's the plan. I'll report back to you either in July or when the aliens do something spectacular, which they very well might at this point, or when the anti-alien factions do something spectacular and, you know, launch a nuclear strike and obliterate Nicaragua, or the former Nicaragua, the alien administration on Earth. So we'll see what happens. It's exciting times. The aliens have just conquered Honduras. Humble beginnings, but the alien administration grows larger. So, the aliens have landed another army in Honduras. The invasion continues.
I have new information. Target in a secure location.
Guatemala conquered by the aliens. Alright, time for the July update. The alien administration continues its relatively slow process of conquest here. They've only taken Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. So not huge yet. They also have been doing coups for us, it looks like, and they've given us Belize, which hopefully I can just give to them eventually. It's kind of out of the way of all my other stuff here. It's like Belize has a real problem with lack of unity and with general inequality. Let's see what I can do about that. Hopefully give it to the aliens in a slightly better place than they found it. We are building nano factories all over, which will give us massively improved income shortly, but they are taking quite a while to build. Let's see, this one will be done on 9th of November, and I think that's about the fastest of them, really. They just take a long time to build. But I have several of them in production on different places. Right now, I do have a shortage of volatiles. That's because I am upgrading my Martian mines to settlement mining complexes here. Those will actually be done fairly soon. That one will be 16th of August. And I think the other one is not far behind. Yeah, this one will also be 16th of August. And so at that point, our industrial our production of space resources should go up pretty dramatically. Right now, it's really being throttled by the fact that those mines are not operating. I should probably do the same thing to Machu Picchu base too, actually. Although we are over our mission control cap by a little bit, which is not ideal. But for now, we're continuing. We're trying to turn a counselor of the resistance so that we can get intel on their operations, act against them probably in some way. We're also trying to spend a lot of time stabilizing the alien administration because it's actually having a lot of trouble with instability. Either because of its recent conquests or because other factions are sending counselors in to increase unrest, one or the other. So, I will get back to you in October. All right, it is October. New quarterly report. The most important news to report at this point is probably that we're almost done with this civilian photonic computing. At that point, we will immediately attempt to research alien diplomacy and figure out what exactly the aliens want from us, what we can best do to help them in their quest. The aliens have conquered pretty much all of Central America. They just have Belize, which is under our control, and also Panama left to take out in that region. Admittedly, that's just a drop in the bucket of the world's population. Only 53.2 million humans are under alien control. So it's still just kind of humble beginnings at this point. I have taken some of my countries off their laser focus on economic growth in order to build some mission control. Especially you can see India here. I've got building up the military a bit and some mission control. South Korea, or sorry, the Koreas are working on building a navy, and we'll be done with that fairly soon. Which point we can have them work on mission control and that sort of thing too. We're having a bit of a financials crisis right now, probably due to upgrades in space going on. So I am having Singapore run a lot of spoils briefly. It's not ideal, but it's what we got to do to make ends meet until the nano factories come online, which should be quite soon. And yeah, in terms of counselor missions, we're just still trying to help out the alien administration as best we can. We're stabilizing our position in Belize because I believe Belize will be conquered by the aliens fairly soon. And I think bringing it to them in a lower unrest configuration will make it easier for them to integrate it into their nation. Let me take a look at the global intelligence here. And we can get a little picture of how the different factions are doing. So the resistance is very low on money, and their bleeding boost. They do have a lot of mission control. I'll give them credit for that. Humanity first. Making a lot of money, but in most ways, and has a lot of boost. That's impressive, but in most ways weaker than the resistance. The initiative, a fairly strong faction. They can actually basically match me in research, which most of the rest of these guys can't. Protectorate, Academy. Academy's losing a lot of money, but I think they can probably make up for it with some of their other resources. and Project Exodus. Really, I'd say the strongest factions out there are me, the Initiative, the Protectorate, the Academy. Just based on raw research, honestly, is a big part of it. The Resistance is also quite strong. Project Exodus and Humanity First are very much the weak powers. Okay, and let me look at the global intelligence here. Climate change is slightly worse. There's a ton of wars going on. Just an absurd number of adventurous wars going on, often between nuclear powers. That's a bit scary. We'll see what happens with all that. Looks like China, under control of the Protectorate, is trying to basically do regime changes around the world, and the US is doing the same thing, but has ended up in an epic war with the Eurasian Union. Earth's population is 8.6 billion. 12,000 people live in space. And yeah, the goals for next episode will be continuing to build up our mission control and achieving a positive monetary balance. Continuing to support the alien administration through reducing unrest. Working towards the capture of Indonesia so it can be unified with Singapore and Malaysia into a future superstate. And most importantly, after completing civilian photonic computing, jumping right into, with maximum priority, researching alien diplomacy. Once we can make contact with them, I imagine we can do a lot of interesting things with the alien administration. We can work hand in glove or hand in tentacle with our alien brothers on our quest to make the world a better place. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.